I'm 73 years old. That's not something I say to sound wise. It's something I say because at this age, there's very little left to pretend about. For most of my life, people told me I did well. They said I was responsible, stable, someone who had things figured out. When they talked about my life, they used words like successful and secure. I nodded when they said those things. I even believed them. Because from the outside, everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to. I worked hard. I built a career. I paid my bills. I didn't fall apart. I didn't make reckless choices. Nothing in my life looked broken. And that's why it took me so long to realize something was missing. I didn't wake up one day feeling unhappy. I wasn't miserable. I wasn't depressed in any obvious way. I was busy, constantly occupied, always moving towards something. And for a long time, that felt like purpose. When I was younger, I believed that if you stayed disciplined and kept moving forward, life would eventually reward you. I thought fulfillment was something that arrived after enough effort, something waiting patiently at the end of the road. No one ever told me that you could reach the end of that road and still feel empty. In my 20s and 30s, I wasn't chasing luxury. I wasn't trying to impress strangers. I wanted stability. I wanted to be someone people could count on. I wanted to build a life that felt solid. So I said yes a lot. Yes to extra hours. Yes to responsibility. Yes to pressure that came disguised as opportunity. Each yes felt reasonable. None of them felt like sacrifices at the time. They felt like investments, like the price of becoming an adult. People noticed. They praised my work ethic. They trusted me with more. They told me I was reliable. That kind of approval is quiet, but powerful. It convinces you that whatever you're giving up must be worth it. As the years passed, my days filled up. My calendar controlled my life. Conversations became shorter. Moments became rushed. I was always present in body, but rarely in mind. I didn't think that mattered. I told myself that showing up physically was enough, that real life could wait until things settled down. Later became a familiar word. Later, when things slow down. Later, when I have more time. Later, when I've earned it. Later followed me for decades. At the time, nothing felt wrong. That's the part people don't understand. There was no alarm, no dramatic loss, just momentum. And momentum is easy to mistake for meaning. I measured my life in things that could be counted: salary, progress, milestones. Those numbers kept increasing, so I assumed my life was improving too. What I didn't notice was how disconnected I was becoming from everything that couldn't be measured. The quiet conversations, the unplanned moments, the things that don't lead anywhere, but somehow make life feel real. I remember achieving things I had worked toward for years and feeling neutral, proud for a moment, then immediately focused on what came next. I told myself that was maturity, that excitement fades when you grow up, that this was just how responsible people lived. I didn't realize numbness and peace are not the same thing. There were evenings when I sat alone, exhausted, not because I hated my life, but because I didn't recognize it anymore. I had become very good at one version of myself and slowly abandoned the rest. The curious version, the playful version, the one who didn't need a reason to enjoy something. I didn't lose them suddenly. I just stopped making space for them. And like anything you stop making space for, they faded quietly. The cost didn't show up all at once. It showed up slowly, in ways that were easy to ignore. Conversations became updates instead of connections. Time with people became shorter, more efficient. I listened just enough to respond, not enough to understand. I made promises I believed I would keep. I just didn't realize how often eventually turns into never. Relationships don't usually fall apart because of one terrible moment. They fade because of many small absences that don't seem important enough to address. I didn't notice that people stopped interrupting my schedule. They worked around it instead. I took that as efficiency, as proof that things were running smoothly. I didn't realize it meant I was slowly removing myself from my own life. I stopped doing things that didn't serve a purpose, not because I didn't enjoy them, but because they didn't lead anywhere. Joy became optional. Rest felt wasteful. Curiosity felt indulgent. Productivity replaced everything, and productivity always asks for more. Years passed like that. Not fast, not slow, just unremarkable. That's what makes this kind of loss so dangerous. When nothing hurts enough to force change, you adapt instead. You accept smaller versions of connection. You stop noticing what's missing because it's been gone for so long. I didn't wake up one day and realize I had lost people. I woke up one day and realized I no longer knew how close we had once been. That pain isn't sharp, it's dull. It sits quietly in the background and doesn't demand attention. I noticed it most when things finally slowed down. Not because I chose to slow them, but because there was nothing left pushing me forward. For the first time in my life, there were no urgent demands, no deadlines, no one waiting for me to deliver something. On paper, it looked like freedom. In reality, it felt like standing in a silent room after a loud machine has been turned off. The silence was uncomfortable. Without movement, without pressure, I didn't immediately know who I was supposed to be. I had spent so long defining myself by what I did that I had never asked who I was without it. That question arrived late. I told myself this was rest, that this was what all the effort had been for. But rest doesn't feel empty. This did. I looked around my life and realized many of the things I assumed would fill this stage weren't there. Not because they had been taken from me, but because I had never built them deeply enough to last. Relationships maintained out of habit felt distant. Interests postponed for decades felt unfamiliar, like they belonged to someone else. Even joy felt awkward, like something I hadn't practiced in years. There was a moment, small, almost insignificant, when it became impossible to ignore. I was sitting alone, doing nothing in particular, and it occurred to me that if someone asked me what I enjoyed, I wouldn't know how to answer. Not because I enjoyed nothing, but because I had trained myself to only enjoy things that had a purpose. Everything in my life needed justification. Everything had to lead somewhere. And now, without goals to chase, I felt unanchored. That was the realization. Not that I had failed, but that I had misunderstood what I was building. I thought I was creating security. What I created was a life that only made sense when it was busy. I don't say this with bitterness. I say it with clarity. Progress is seductive because it always points forward, but life doesn't wait at the finish line. It happens in the moments you tell yourself you'll get to later. Later is a fragile promise. When I look back now, my regret isn't about what I achieved. I don't wish I had failed. I don't wish I had struggled more. I wish I had noticed sooner that a life can look impressive and still feel incomplete. That stability is not the same as fulfillment. That being needed is not the same as being connected. These realizations didn't arrive as a single thought. They arrived as a weight that settled in once there was nothing left to distract me. And once that weight is there, it doesn't leave. You learn to carry it quietly. I don't say this to instruct anyone. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm only here to tell the truth. This is what it felt like to reach the end of a long pursuit and realize that what I wanted wasn't waiting there. This is what it felt like to understand, too late, that success can keep you busy enough to miss your own life. I'm 73 now. I say that because time has stripped away everything that used to distract me. What remains is honesty. And the honest truth is this: I was successful, but my life was empty. Not because I didn't achieve enough, but because I waited too long to ask myself what any of it was for.